Y'all, this movie aged like milk. Hey, my name is Tiffany and welcome to the channel. On this channel, we like to discuss media messaging by doing a deep dive on the movies that we watch and the movies that we love. I don't even know why I said that in this scenario, in this analysis, because this movie I did not love. And the rewatch was real hard, yo. But that's why this is a almost like an October themed episode, because this movie is, it's scary. It's a scary movie. No, I get that, because they also did Scary Movie. Anyway, what I'm saying is that on the rewatch of White Chicks, which is the movie we'll be discussing today, I did not realize just how poorly done this film was. And I'm starting right at the top, giving you my opinion, because y'all know I like to usually drip it out, maybe wait a little while to kind of give you what I feel, but I can't with this one. I can't. If you are not familiar with the movie White Chicks, two FBI agent brothers, Marlon Wayans and Sean Wayans, who play Marcus and Kevin Copeland in the movie, they accidentally foil a drug bust. And as punishment, they're forced to escort a pair of socialites to the Hamptons, where they're going to be used as bait for a kidnapper. But when the girls realize the FBI's plan, they refuse to go. And left without many options, Marcus and Kevin decide to pose as the sisters, transforming themselves into white women, if you didn't catch that from the title. And the thing about this movie, when it came out, it was one of those movies that was definitely risky, but also one of those movies that was delightful in the sense that it pushed the envelope, but not so far that people were like disgusted by it, at least not at the time. What? Why? How did we watch this movie? Let's talk a little bit about the Wayans brothers. The Wayans family is a massive film family. They're a massive comedy family that includes the likes of Keenen Ivory Wayans, Damon Wayans, and so on. There are so many Wayans. And the Wayans brothers that are in this movie, Sean and Marlon, actually had their own TV show called The Wayans Brothers. We're brothers. There was this thing back in the late 90s, early 2000s style where movies really try to, hook you with absurdity in the beginning before they ever gave you any type of meat or depth or what have you. So in the beginning of White Chicks, you kind of get the sense that this is going to be a ridiculous film from the first scene, which is still pretty funny and perhaps very racist, very stereotypical. Like, it definitely rides that line for sure. But as we say, it was a different time. But what I really zoned in on was when they introduced the white women that they're going to be pretending to be. They made these girls caricatures of themselves.
I'm gonna have BF.
Wait, hey, what's a BF?
She's gonna have a fit. You better get out of here. I am gonna call your boss.
Come on, you don't have to do that.
No, I am gonna call the owner of the company.
Come on, just take it easy. Look, we can work this out.
No. I'm gonna write a letter.
No.
I also want to say the reason I put this in October or leading into the October season is because the prosthetic work and the montage that we see of them getting made up into these women, right, is absolutely terrifying. Like, I almost got sick watching some of this. And part of it was because, yes, ridiculously like absurd, but the other part was like the spraying of like white skin that doesn't look white, looks trans. It just, I can't even talk about it without being a little like squeamish. Like, it just looks crazy. Does anybody feel me? Like, are you at home, are you feeling me right now? Like, it's hard to watch. Like, it's super, I don't know, something about it just makes me feel, it just feels like horror. It feels like horror. So here we are in the Hamptons, and I don't know what I was expecting, but seeing them for the first time, that is the stuff that nightmares are made of. And I know the movie did this really, really fun thing where everybody is suspending disbelief, right? Which is when you basically buy into the given circumstances, even though you know it's a movie, you know it's a play, it's not real, but we're all giving it over like it is. And when I tell you, looking at everybody else buying into the fact that these, not only did they look like white women, but that they look like these sisters that they're impersonating, I couldn't do it. I couldn't suspend the disbelief. I was just like, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. It's kind of like when your friend can't sing, but she's like, I'm gonna go audition for, The Voice or American Idol. And you're like, oh girl, you are so good. Like, don't do that. Like, she can't sing. That she doesn't have a gift. That's not her ministry. But I think in this sense, it's really funny to see that these prosthetics, they're terrifying. And yet, they're getting whistled at and people are they know exactly who they're supposed to be, right? They know that they're the sisters. And I don't know what I was. I think all through the movie and all through the rewatch, like I'm really taking y'all on this like present journey, what I was thinking. I really think I was just trying to figure out how I was going to make it to the end because I just couldn't believe that this was greenlit. And I just want to say, like on that note, it's interesting, especially in the time that we're in where people are striking and the industry is kind of imploding based off of like who can do what. How did they get this movie greenlit? Who produced it? Who was about this life? Because there is kind of an ongoing conversation about the lengths you have to go to in order to get your stuff produced or created. And I'm talking specifically about those higher budget films and the Hollywoods and all of those things. Like the Wayans, they had connections, they had a film family, but it's still hard as a Black producer or writer or filmmaker to get these things greenlit by mostly white-owned studios. And so you wonder, like, who said yes to this? And even more than that, and I don't want to go down this conspiracy train because I could, where does the line sit when you have Black men often in drag or in, playing women or what have you? There's kind of this ongoing debate that's happened for many, many years within film circles and specifically within Black film circles about this discussion. So I'm thinking about, what did it take someone to say, yes, this is a thing that we want to put out? Now that said, White Chicks was pretty successful when it came out. I'll put the budget numbers on the screen, but it did fairly well in terms of intrigue, and even more than money, it did well in regards to that cult following, right? Everybody that's anybody knows White Chicks. But just because something has a cult following doesn't necessarily mean that it's good. And so we return to the middle of the shrubbery maze, which is what makes something funny and what makes something just plain disturbing. And I think this movie definitely rides that line a little too close. Now, of course, the best part of White Chicks, because I've done a lot of bashing, the best part of White Chicks is Terry Crews. Hands down, Terry Crews is hilarious. And if I remember correctly, this movie, and if I'm not mistaken, there might have been like one other one that really put Terry Crews on the scene in terms of his comedic ability. Terry Crews is a scene stealer, and everybody knows this about him, and he's done this in many different roles. But Latrell, as this big Black man after this white woman, is probably one of the funniest pieces of the entire movie.
Man, it may be summertime in the Hamptons, but it is snowing up in here. You know what they say? Once you go black, you're gonna need a wheelchair.
Hey, Latrell.
It's horrible, but it's funny. That is funny. It's funny. I all know that we learned this Vanessa Carlton song. You know the one. If I could fall into the sky. That one. That we all knew because of this movie.
I love this song.
Casting Terry Crews, I think putting him in the position that he was in, I think making him as absurd as he was, really, like, speaking of comedy chops, that was probably the strongest piece of the film. And there's one part of the movie that reminded me of the Get Out run, like, the one where the man's running in the field. It was when one of the brothers, I don't even know which one was in costume at this point, but he was chasing down somebody who tried to take his bag. Y'all, you're not telling me that's not the most scary. If that was running towards you at like full speed, you wouldn't be terrified? I was terrified watching that scene. That's why this is horror. That's why this is a scary movie. It was wild and comedic, of course, hilarious. One thing I do think that this movie got really right about white women culture, and as someone who feels like they speak white girl fluently, I definitely understand this to be true. The shopping trip that they take with the girls and they try to go buy outfits and do all of those types of things, you really see this intense intensity of white women where their emotions they're often locked into this kind of passive aggressive, dialect, if you will. And of course, this is an overgeneralization, white girls don't get upset. But the idea here is that white women tend to be somewhat suppressing how they really feel. And so what it comes out in is these really intense moments towards themselves, towards their own bodies, towards how they look. And it's perfectly demonstrated with this scene here.
I'm Cellulite Sally. Look at my huge badonkey. Oh, and don't forget about me. I'm back fat Betty. Now, who could have said that? Oh yeah, it's Tina that's talking to me.
And though the scene is funny, it's also kind of sad, right? Because I've even met some of my white girl friends who have really struggled with self-esteem and confidence and how they look, especially around their bodies. And there's a lot of shame kind of built into the culture and the cultural norms about being bigger or thicker. Now that's completely changed in 2023, where we've got the Kim K's of the world, but there was a time where that was not the thing to be in, and still, skinny was considered the prettiest and thin was in, and it was very, very different. I think one thing the movie does do a good job of is kind of stacking these cultural perceptions and ideas, almost like time capsuling it. So it's like holding in to the energy of that's what, this time was, that's what this year was. So I got to the last part of the movie and y'all, I tried, I really did. I stuck as far as I could through this. I couldn't finish it. And I've seen it before. I literally had to fast forward through the end because I couldn't do it. It was bad. It was really bad. And I just have to shout out my friend Chris. He said it was bad. Chris, you were right. It was bad. Characters were incredibly frustrating. There were 17 subplots and I didn't need any of them. I know that it was supposed to be campy. That's very much the Wayans style. I do think camp though has to be done where everyone's in on the joke. And I felt like the characters were in on the joke. I felt like the actors were in on the joke. And for a time, us as the audience, we were all in on it. But now watching this again, I'm not in on this joke. It's not funny to me. And I don't even think, I want to leave the identity conversation alone, mainly because I don't even need y'all fighting in the comments like that. And I'm not really here to spark that discussion. But I do think when we start talking about putting on masks and maybe I do have something deep to say. When we talk about putting on masks and pretending to be someone you're not to try to win something, it's the same thing that I say, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. From an industry standpoint, this didn't do anybody's career any favors, right? Other than Terry Crews. But from a story standpoint, a concept standpoint, I would say it was entertaining at times, but it was unnecessary. I feel like that's not very fair to what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be for fun. It was supposed to be campy. But I like to watch movies, and you guys probably have picked this up. I like to watch movies that show me something, teach me something, change my perspective on something. Even if I don't agree with the thing, I want it to inform me in some way. And this movie did none of those things. At the same time, it wasn't funny enough to warrant teaching me nothing. I hope that makes sense. So in other words, if you're going to teach me nothing and give me no lesson and no theme and maybe, other people debate me. I'd love to hear if you got a message or some type of theme from this. I'd love to learn from you. But if you're not going to teach me anything and you're not going to be quality made and you're not going to be high production, if you're not going to do anything at an excellent level, I don't really want any part of it. That's just how I treat media. I take it very seriously in the sense that I love to laugh. I love to be entertained. I love to be joyful. But I do need it to feed me in some way. And if it doesn't do that, it's a waste of an hour and a half. So that's an incredibly depressing ending. I'm gonna keep it light though. I want you guys to know that Terry Crews makes me laugh, and this scene with the glow sticks will never cease to make me laugh. But if you have something very different, or maybe you can just talk me off the ledge here because I was so upset that I entered this, please do let me know in the comments what you got out of the film, or let me know why you completely agree with everything I'm saying. I'll take that too. I'll take the affirmation. But I'm so grateful that you joined me for this, and I hope that you enjoy your fall, your season. And until the next time, make sure you leave me a hashtag scary movie down in the comments just to throw everybody else off. But I will see you guys in the next one. Bye now.